Hello and welcome to the Love, Listen, Talk, Repeat podcast. I'm Wendy Capewell, your podcast host, as well as being a counsellor and psychotherapist, author, and speaker. In each of these podcast episodes, I'll be joined by various guests, sharing their expertise and experiences on different subjects. So, let's get on with this week's show. My guest today is Jillian Rothschild Scholar, and she is a classically trained Feng Shui expert. I'm going to pronounce it wrongly. You can correct me.
You did a great job. That's perfect. Feng Shui.
So, Jillian, come and tell us more about you. Introduce yourself and tell us more about Feng Shui.
So my name is Jillian, and I am a classically trained Feng Shui expert, and the business is Feng Shui in motion. The idea that energy and the environment that we live in is constantly changing and energy is constantly in motion. I have been working in private consultancy for a little over 10 years now. And what I work with is helping people who are sort of tormented with big unanswered questions about themselves or about something that's going on in their lives, get some clarity so that they can have a path forward and they can have a direction. Typically, people come to me with anything really under the umbrella of the human experience, but usually Feng Shui addresses three main areas: health, wealth, and relationships.
Right. So, see, now I only understand Feng Shui. This is my little knowledge of it, is about how you place things in your house. That's all I know about it.
Right.
So I'm sure you can, there's much more to it, I'm sure. So
absolutely, there's much more to it. To me, Feng Shui is a support system for our lives. It's really an ancient Chinese art and science that allows us to create harmony and balance within any environment. So when we create harmony and balance, it lends support to our lives. And then when our lives have support through our physical environment, then it's just easier to attain the things that we want in life, like well-being and love and abundance and happiness. So I think an important factor for people to understand is that we have the ability to sort of control and influence how supportive our environment is in creating the life that we want right now. So when I work with a client, I assess their individual goals, what they want to have in their life, what's working, what's not working, and then assess how to use the energy within the physical environment to bring balance and harmony using the principles of Feng Shui. So it can certainly be moving the stuff in your environment, and it can also be really powerful things like using the elements within our natural environment, like water or a mountain, and understanding how the qi or the energy flows in that environment and directing it so that we can assess it in our environment. That's really the classical way to address Feng Shui.
Okay. It sounds fascinating. I've never worked with anybody who, a Feng Shui expert. So, yeah, it's intriguing as to how much more there is to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people come with big questions. Sometimes it can be something catastrophic, like a health issue or a bankruptcy, or it could be a big relationship issue, like a couple that's on the brink of divorce, or someone who is single and looking to attract a partner or a mate. Sometimes it's just, I don't know why I can't get farther along in life. What's going on that I can't get the job I want, or I'm not in the place that I want to be, or I'm unhappy about something. And so Feng Shui is one component of the systems that I work with. And then I also use a wonderful system called the 4 Pillars of Destiny. And it really gives it's like a Chinese astrology kind of system.
Okay.
And it gives a picture of a person's individual energy that they're born with. And from that assessment, we can attain information about what may be out of balance in your personal energy based on your birthday, and then filling in the blank by tapping into the environment to make the connection so you get more support. It's fascinating.
Wow. I
do I look at a story? You know, you always get the guides in magazines or whatever.
Yeah.
They tell you what to expect for the month. But I don't know, that it seems so broad when I read it in the magazine. It can't be, not everybody who's like, I'm a Capricorn. Not everybody who's a Capricorn is going to have the same thing happening for that
Right.
month. It's not possible. So there's got to be much more to it.
There is. And in Chinese astrology, it's actually called the 4 pillars of destiny because we use the year, the month, the day, and the hour that someone is born to identify the elements and the timing of what composes someone's personality. So think that, yeah, those horoscopes are often very broad, right? And they even there are people who offer them for Chinese astrology too. Like, it's the year of the rat, and this is what the year is going to mean for you. That's only like 25% of your chart. You also have a month that you're born in and the day that you're born in. All of that relates to relationships you have with your parents, with your children, with yourself, with your spouse. It's really deep. So instead of it's the year of the metal rat, which is what we're in now, but what if you were born in a wood rat year or a water year? It changes based on the 5 elements. So the 5 elements are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. Okay. And each of those elements will interact with each other, and knowing how they interact and how they behave gives you a very specific picture of someone's talents, their behaviors, their likes, their dislikes, their tendencies, even like a superpower. You can see in someone's chart if someone has like a little psychic or has a little superpower of their own. And then you get to much clearer picture. What I love about it is, after studying it for a decade, is I have so much compassion and deep appreciation for an individual, because it shows me so clearly how no one is the same, how everybody is different and should be treated as an individual. And I find it really helpful in practice, and my clients find it helpful too, because often they don't know why they are the way they are. And this is a wonderful way to get to know oneself better.
Yeah.
And when you know yourself better, then you can interact more confidently in the world. You can be more communicative. You can stand sort of more firmly in, this is who I am, and I accept who I am. And I didn't know why I was like this 20 years ago, but now I get it, that I can just accept myself, and therefore I can be more confident and walk in the world knowing the world needs more of who I am, because I am so individual. It's beautiful.
So how deep does this go? I mean, how you say you can learn about someone, what might you learn about someone by doing this?
Well, I can talk about my own experience, right? So for myself, I started to understand why I was a little bit of a weird kid. I could look back at my chart, because the chart is broken up into 4 pillars, which is the year, month, day, and hour you're born. And it also breaks out what are called 10-year luck pillars. So these luck pillars indicate 10 years of energy that has an affinity for you. And you can identify sort of things that happen in your life. Maybe in this 10-year time period, I made money. Maybe in this 10-year period, I was in a relationship. Maybe in this 10-year period, I had a child and something significant happened, or I moved. And the pillar will, when you know how the 5 elements work together, will tell you what's happening. Usually something significant happens when the pillar changes, when that 10-year period ends or shifts. And so it's really wonderful to look back, and it's really interesting to do for famous people, because their lives are like out there, right? So you can see why some famous person became famous at that time, why they were successful for 20 years, and then why they fell away, why they got married, why they got divorced, because they shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. And then you can translate it to yourself and look back and go, oh, I had a great job for that 10-year period. And then as soon as my period that ended, then I did something else and I moved, and then I got married. And then you start to see the pattern of how that energy influences you. So then the next time you encounter that energy, you can more confidently say, I can make money in this period and I should really go for it. Or this is a time period when I had more likability, so I'm going to build my business, or I'm going to try to find a partner, or whatever it is that is your goal for that time. It's just so helpful to be more confident, understanding yourself and understanding your way in the world. At least it was for me.
Okay, so does it always go in 10-year periods?
Yes. So there are 10-year what are called luck pillars or periods. So when a child is born, you cannot crawl back in your mother's womb and be born at a different time. You don't get a different chart. You're born with what you're born with. And your luck will sort of open. You will ride on your parents' luck for a certain time period up to 10 years.
Right.
Sometimes when babies are born, their luck opens right away. Sometimes around 6 or 7 or 8, or anywhere in between. It could be 2, it could be 3, 4.
Right.
A child's luck will open, and usually something happens. It could be they had a sibling born, or a parent moved, or something else happened. Maybe a parent lost a job and it was catastrophic, or they went through a natural disaster.
Okay.
Something usually happens that opens their luck. And then they're riding on their own energy forward. So instead of being 0 to 10, their luck is 4 to 14, and then 14 to 24. And so then you can look back on your life and go, oh, when I was 23, that's after I graduated university and I started getting my own job and I started to make money. And so then you can start to see what that looks like. It goes deep. It goes very deep. You asked how it can go on forever and ever. The learning just never seems to stop.
Okay. So when you know that you've gone through this 10-year period, does it run consecutively? So if you, for example, you had a 10-year period of really great career, followed by a 10-year period of great relationship, would that follow consecutively, or does it depend on the chart or something else?
It depends on the chart, and it depends on the elements, right? So the element that rules that 10-year period is going to be static. But we also have energy that changes every year, right? So this year we're in a rat year, the previous year we were in a pig year and a dog year, and it had different elements to it. So you're also going to interact with the energy of the year. So although that 10-year period could be really beneficial to you, maybe there's a couple years in there that are challenging, and there's opportunity for you to grow. And that's okay, right? We need to grow, otherwise we're not here. That we're here to grow and evolve. And so it's okay if there are challenges. It just helps you grow and gives you opportunity to see how you can make your way in a world in a different way. That's all right. So not every year is going to be rosy all the time, right? There are people who have good luck pillars, but may not be able to actually hang on to that good energy or hang on to that luck because they don't have good feng shui. Or maybe they're just not even aware. They're just going through life. And that's fine. But that's one of the nice things about feng shui is that we're looking at the physical environment and we can look at the person's individual energy. When we put them together, it's really powerful. I once had a teacher tell me that a good feng shui practitioner will always look at an individual's chart because the human energy is significant in how it relates to the physical energy here on the earth. So to me, it's really helpful to know someone's individual energy and then put it together with the feng shui so they can really get the good stuff that's out there as much as possible. Mm-hmm. You can have a great chart. You can have a chart that says you have a ton of money, but if you're in a physical environment where your environment's not supporting you, you may not be able to hold on to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think there are so many variables. That's the thing in life. We're not robots, and so therefore, and we can't always guarantee the outside influences, like this virus, and everything connected to it. But we can't, and I think that's where I find it interesting. Well, how can you predict what that's going to happen, or how you can't? So how do you behave? How is it that you use that knowledge to work with the situation now, for example?
Right. So I think that one of the things that I do most with clients is give them informed choices. Because at the end of the day, we all have free will. So in Feng Shui, there's something called the 3 lucks. There's heaven luck, the energy you're just born with. That's kind of like your chart. You have human luck, which is our free will, our choices, the way we make our way in the world. And then there's the earth luck, which is the Feng Shui. I can help you with the Feng Shui. I can help you understanding your human luck. And somewhere in between there are your choices. If you if I tell you that your options in your home, for example, maybe you have 3 rooms and maybe 2 of them are really fabulous. One is better for work and one is better for sleep, but you have a 3rd room that's not so helpful. Maybe it will, through analysis, trigger a lawsuit or trigger an illness. And you say, well, I love that room, I'm just going to continue sleeping there. Okay, that's your choice. And then if you get sick or if you have an issue, then you might make a change later. But you always have a choice about how to live in your physical environment so that you can be in as much good energy as possible. It doesn't mean that you're going to live forever, or that you're not going to live without illness forever. That's not real. Like, we have human chi. We still have the energy that's part of our lives. If it was true that you could live forever, this has been going on for thousands of years, the Chinese ancients would still be alive, and that's not real, right? We still have only so much chi. But I think it's helpful to be able to make an informed choice, to know that I can, if I'm going to install a water feature in my home, like a pool or a hot tub or a water fountain, I can, with informed details, use it as a wealth development tool instead of just sticking a pool in my backyard.
Oh.
The placement of water is very important in Feng Shui. So I think that a lot of what I'm doing with clients is just helping them make an informed choice.
Yeah. Yes, and thinking about that, because water is a very powerful element, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
In Feng Shui, we say that qi rides on the wind and stops at the boundary of water. So the qi comes down the mountain and stops where the water is, and then it collects, hopefully in front of your house, so that you can get it, right? That would be the ideal situation. But that's also coming from a pristine environment. Feng Shui was created and understood, right, thousands and thousands of years ago, where it was just the land that we lived on. And the Chinese ancients could observe how we lived on the land and could capture the qi as it was flowing. But now we live in big cities. We have huge highways that act as water features because that's energy moving, like a rapid river. But now it's a highway or a freeway.
So it kind of transforms in that way.
It's absolutely transformed.
Oh, wow.
You have to look at it through a modern lens, because this is we're living in big cities. We're not living, so many people these days are living in 3G or 5G. I mean, we're coming into 5G. These are modern issues that we need to address, because it's still going to emanate an energetic field, and it's going to impact our physical bodies. It's going to impact the land. And we need to assess that in order to be able to thrive.
Yeah, and the closest I've been, I think I talked to you about it before, was I use like dowsing rods and showing a person about their energy, because you can see, you can see what your energy is like, because if somebody's really depressed, you know, they're free swinging, but as free motion. But as soon as you start thinking about or noticing that the mood you're in, that will change that, you know, the dowsing rods effectively will swing in one direction or another.
Right.
And so that's the closest that I've been to kind of that sort
Same
of thing.
concept in Feng Shui. We will use dowsing rods to douse for water, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a tool for us to visibly be able to see where the energy lies. And in Feng Shui, I use a compass called a lopan. It's a beautiful tool. And I can use it to assess where the energy is flowing, what's working, what's not working. It's just another way to assess energy. It's cool that you use that. Not many people use dowsing rods anymore.
Well, I have to say they're adapted. They're not, you know, I had to, believe it or not, they are metal coat hangers. So it's the metal. And then I just cut them and shape them. And they've got pieces of straw, you know, drinking straw on the end, so that they're free swinging. So I made them myself. But it's quite incredible. And you get a client, and you say, look, this is what's happening, and that they sit there with their eyes like, what? They can't believe it. I said, I'm no magician. This is not an illusion. This is real.
Right.
And just by thinking differently, I can think of something really sad, and they'll cross over. And then I think of something really really happy or really powerful, you know, really in a positive way, and they just literally swing out again.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that energy that's within us. So yeah, it's harnessing that, isn't it?
I completely agree with you. And one of the things that I learned very early on in my practice, that one of my teachers actually encouraged me to do in my work, is to make sure that there is hope, that a client that I'm working with has a path forward. And I think people like options. So I usually say, like, here are your options. Here's what will happen if you go this way. Here's what will happen if you go this way. So here you can decide what you want. But I think that it's important to leave people with hope, because a lot of times these sort of ancient practices have been fear-based. And it's because this technique was often reserved for the emperors, and they didn't want uprising from the common people. And so a lot of misinformation is out there, and fear was instilled. And there are even some concepts that are, the translation sounds really evil. And it's not. You just have to understand, like, what it actually says, what it means, in order to be able to navigate through the process. So I completely agree with you that if you have hope, if you have something to aspire to, and you have a choice, then you can confidently move forward on a path that you want to be on. And that's part of what I do.
I want to bring up something I was reading the other day, and it was slightly different tangent, but it's not. It was the fact that if you have a baby's cot, you shouldn't put it up against a wall, because it doesn't allow the energy to flow. Because if you put a cot against a wall, you're kind of putting a block there. And I wonder what your thoughts might be on that. And as I've thrown this one at you.
No, this is great. I love this question. This is a fabulous question. So this Feng Shui is deep, and I only have a few minutes, so I'll try to be succinct because I could talk about this for hours. There are two things that are important. One is, in Feng Shui, we have a formation called armchair formation. This is the loose translation. The idea being that when you sit in a proper armchair, you have something supporting you behind you, and you have something to rest your arms on either side. Yeah. And by having that, you feel supported all around.
Yeah.
So one concept is that it's great if you have a bed where there's a proper headboard, or it's up against a wall so that you feel supported and that you don't feel like someone's going to attack you from behind. That's really important. So it can be very beneficial to have a bed or a baby sit against a wall when sleeping. The other technique that is wonderful is something called 8 mansions. 8 mansions is a system in Feng Shui that I use without argument. This is non-negotiable in my practice. It basically says that based on when you're born, everyone has 4 good directions and 4, quote, bad directions for you personally. And when you know what those directions are, it can help you with your overall harmony. It can help you with health issues. It can help you with relationship issues. It can help keep things stable in your life and unchanging. And so for a child, it's very helpful to make sure they're also sleeping in a direction that's helpful for them. Often with a child, especially a baby, if you lay them in a specific direction, you'll wake up and they'll be turned in a completely different way. Yeah. And they'll do it naturally on their own. And every night you lay them one way and you come and they're turned a completely different way, because they're just naturally tuning into the environment so they can soothe themselves. That's how thin their veil is. They just can't tell you that's what they're doing because they can't speak English or they can't communicate with you at that age, right? They're just tuning into the energy. So if you know already what that child's good direction is for sleeping and you can place them that way, and there's a wall and there's a headboard, then that child could just sleep through the night, and it can be a beautiful thing for mom and for the dad and the child, and happiness reigns. And then the child can rejuvenate, can sleep better, you can sleep better. It doesn't mean that the kid's not going to ever get sick, but it can help the process of rest and renewal at night, which is really what you want. And so I think it's a wonderful thing to do, to know what your good sleeping direction is so that you can use it. Because I think sometimes people underestimate the value of a good night's sleep. Like if you sleep well, you think you can take on the world.
Yes.
In my practice, I've seen huge changes with children who sleep well. you place them correctly and they sleep great.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And I think that goes not just for children, it goes for adults. I think if you wake up and you there are times when I wake up and I think, oh gosh, I'm just not ready to face the day. And there are other times when I think, yeah, you know, this is good and I've had a really good night's sleep.
Right.
And it makes the difference to how our day goes.
Yes. And this is why I work with clients over time, because you will have a good direction, which is very safe to use. So really encourage people to understand what their good directions are and use them. Use them meaning work toward a good direction or sleep toward a good direction. So there's tools for that. And then every year the energy also moves around in a very predictable pattern, actually. And so every year I will sometimes fine tune with clients, hey, you're sleeping this direction. This is normally your good direction, but the energy visiting this year is not so helpful for you. So let's tweak it a little bit and do some fine tuning and make a little shift so you can have a better year. And that's why I work with clients over time, because the energy is moving, it's always flowing. And it's a little bit like having a boat in a river. It's just easier to go with the flow of the river. Just go downstream, right? Instead of trying to row your oars and go upstream. It just makes you feel like you're not getting anywhere.
So how does that work if you have couples? You know, a couple living together.
Because
the energy is going to be different.
It can be different. And now it's often common that couples are the same. Like it happens to be that in my own marriage, my husband and I are the same. So it works beautifully. But I often run into couples that are complete opposites. And so sometimes there are couples who will naturally sleep in different rooms, and they sometimes go, oh, I'm embarrassed. My husband sleeps here. I sleep here. It's not embarrassing at all. You are taking care of yourself. I think that's great. So sometimes they're naturally doing that on their own. If they're not, and one person is sick or one person is having a financial issue, we will often use an advanced technique, because there's almost always on the advanced level an ability to do a smaller increment that will work for both of them.
Okay.
Now, general knowledge that's harder to do, right? But in Feng Shui, I love this sort of statement that says, for every challenge, there is relief, if you just know where to look for it. So I think that even if someone is different than their partner or their spouse, we can find something that will work for both of them.
Wow, that's just fascinating. I really fascinated to learn. I hope the listeners have found this really interesting, because I do find it so interesting. So there's a lot in there, such a lot in there.
Yes.
But what is one thing that someone could put into action now that they could take away with them? What can you think of something that listeners could, you know, all the details will be in the show notes and so on. They can contact you and learn more about it, but just one small thing that people could take away.
I think it's helpful to just sort of open your eyes and start to observe the natural environment around you. Is there a tree that's dead in your physical environment? Why did that tree die, and how is that impacting the energy in your space? Is there a house in your neighborhood that's always for sale? Why is that house always for sale? Like here in the US, what I see a lot are houses on a corner that are often for sale because the chi is not balanced on either side of the property. So I think it's helpful to even look in your own home. Is there an area of my home that is collecting a lot of stuff? We talk about clutter a lot in Feng Shui. Why is this corner of this room just like the dumping ground for stuff? What can I do to clean that up? Are there plants in my home that are not thriving in this area? Maybe I should take my plant and move it to a different area. Is my pet not healthy by having a sleeping cot in a particular, or a mat in one place? Should I move it? How am I doing? Do I sleep well? Can I focus? Do I have the relationship that I want? And then if you start to look around and go, oh, this is working or this is not working, then there's an opportunity to make a change. So I think that just being willing to open your eyes can make a huge difference.
Wow. Yes, I started thinking about where are my corners that I have clutter.
Go
Just
tackle
thinking
that
about it.
corner.
Yeah. I need to think about that one. That's been fascinating. Thank you so much. And how do people get in touch with you? I mean, as I said, I'm going to put all the details in the show notes,
Yes,
but
yes.
an
So
easy
my
way for people.
website is Feng Shui in Motion. That's the business. And the site itself is FS for Feng Shui in motion.com. And the
Oh,
website has lots of great information on how to contact me. There's also a wonderful blog. I put lots of details in my blog. There's also a free 4 Pillars of Destiny calculator on my site. So if you want to get your own chart, you can get a little basic chart for free on my site. I have a
brilliant.
newsletter people can sign up for that comes out a couple times a month, and I do an annual update every year as well. And that's a good place to start. I think if you're not sure if Feng Shui is for you or you're not sure how it works, getting some free information is a great way to go.
And you've also got a free giveaway that is just in the show note that we're going to put in the show notes.
Yeah.
So there's something very special for the time being. We don't know how long that's going to be.
It's not going to
So
be forever. So if you're listening to the show now in 2020, there's a link in the show notes, and that will give you access to the 8 Mansions toolkit that I talked about, which will give you your 4 good directions and your 4 bad directions. And that way you can kind of look at it and see, is there something I can change? Can I change my desk, or should I change my bed? And give it a try.
fantastic. Thank you so much for today. It's been interesting. I'm going to go and look that up and find out more. But thank you so much, Jillian.
It was a pleasure. I
Really
enjoyed our
enjoyed.
conversation. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'd love to hear from you and what you think, so do get in touch. If you'd like to learn more about me, how I help people who are struggling with issues relating to their personal life or relationships, as well as finding out how you can work with me, go to my website www.wendycapewell.co.uk, where you can find my contact details and book a free call with me. You really don't have to struggle alone. Until next time, take care. Bye.